If they waive Kapanen, Frederic's only a $575,000 cap hit. You're gaining $500,000 by swapping Kapanen for Frederic on your roster, right? So it's a very good deal cap-wise. It's a touch too much. But I also think if you're going to sit there and roast the Oilers and say, why'd you give up Max Wanner in this deal, this, that, however you want to frame your negative view on this trade, that's the trade deadline. We talked about this yesterday. I mean, Trent Frederic has 8 goals on the year, primarily playing a bottom 6 role with the Bruins. He averages 13 minutes and 50 seconds time on ice per game. That's a lot more than a lot of Oilers are scoring with more minutes than that this year. So
I was going to say in the last game, the only 5 Oilers forwards got more than 13 minutes of time on ice, which just goes to show the help they actually need in those roles.
But back to my point, if you're going to roast the Oilers for including Max Wanner and paying too much in your mind to get this deal done, that's trading at the trade deadline. You then can't also come out and rip the Oilers for not doing enough. Like, at some point, the market is the market. And if you weren't willing to pay this, Boston would have just gone to the team who was willing to pay the next closest thing, right? Like, there are a decent amount of forwards on the market this year, but it's a seller's market. There are more teams that are looking to buy than sell right now. So the idea that Boston is sitting there and going, we want Wanner or this deal's not happening. If you're Edmonton, and you kind of alluded to this, you're looking at a right side of your blue line that is going to have Evan Bouchard and Ty Emberson on it for, I would assume, the next 3 to 5 seasons here. An Emberson extension should happen, and a Bouchard extension in all likelihood is going to happen at some point in closer to the summer, obviously. And I think you kind of, again, made a good point. They should address that right side of their blue line at some point here. And if you have 3 somewhat permanent right shot guys, Max Wanner is an expendable asset for you. He's not a Matt Savoy. He's not anything like that. He's a B-level prospect who's, I think, shown well at the pro level. We've talked to Bruce about him a lot. But, you know, like, I had that fear driving in. It was like, oh my God, is this going to be like Matt Savoy 1-for-1 for Trent Frederic? And then, I would have been pissed off at the deal. You didn't give up a first. You didn't give up your your handful of few A-level prospects who, as Sergeant Battle says, Savoy, O'Reilly, Akey. Those are the 3 guys I wouldn't have wanted to touch in this deal. They didn't. It's actually pretty close to the deal I threw out yesterday, where it was the first instead of the second, and you end up getting Brandon Carlo in the deal, which maybe I would have loved that trade. I definitely would have loved that trade. So again, it's a hair much, but that's business at the deadline, man.
Max Wanner has 2 points this season.
Well, that too.
I actually didn't realize how low his offensive numbers were. And
like, if he's the next, size isn't the same, but if he's the next William Lagesson or Vinny Desharnais is maybe a decent one. Like, if his ceiling's Vinny Desharnais, are you upset that you lost out on the next Vinny Desharnais? No.
Marcus Niemelainen. I don't know. Like, I just looked up here Max Wanner, and the first story that comes up is from Mass Live.
Yep.
Which I'm assuming is a Massachusetts newspaper or website. It says, Boston Bruins deal forward to Oilers for low prospect and picks.
There you go.
So looking back at last season, maybe somewhat of a comparable. The Oilers got a little bit more in this deal than what the Rangers did last season, but the Rangers acquired Alex Wennberg. Obviously a different style of play, but a middle 6 forward, 50% retained. That cost them a second-round pick and a conditional 4th. The really is weird. A lot of the middle 6 forwards, I guess, weren't traded for more than the 50% retained. Like, there was no one last season aside from Adam Henrique, who was traded for 75% retained. And now, obviously, Cossier is a first-round pick. Tarasenko, Mantha, both traded for 50% retained and second-round picks, third-round picks. So, again, I don't think this deal's that crazy when you look down at comparables from years past. Anthony Duclair, Tampa Bay took on his full cap from San Jose, and it cost him a third-round pick and him, again, a low-level prospect. So, I think the Oilers did a good job in this, getting the cap down. Something that I know a lot of people spoke about that Holland was able to do is like he operated an LTIR for basically the entire time he was the Oilers GM and managed to get his way out on deals and making things work for the team and to get Frederic down to that low of a cap hit. It's interesting. Where do you think he slots into the lineup? I think that's what a lot of people are wondering.
Yeah, I wonder about him as a top 6 fit. I know he is a center, but he doesn't win a lot of draws. We know that Leon works very, very well with a disruptor, someone who goes and forechecks hard and can create space with physicality.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder about him playing with Leon Draisaitl. If you're going to keep that top line together, which, I mean, all indications are that they will, and, I mean, they've always gone back to it at some point. Maybe a conversation needs to be had about that, considering how Nuge has looked this year. But let's say that top line stays the same. I like the idea of a second line that's Frederic, Draisaitl, and Savoy. That creates a third line that I would do Arvidsson, Henrique, and Brown, and then a fourth line that would probably have Janmark centering Perry and Podkolzin. I mean, Jeff Skinner scratched tonight, and that's without Frederic in the lineup. I don't think Jeff Skinner's going to be playing a ton of hockey down the stretch and into the playoffs here. But I do, as much as Frederic is primarily a bottom six guy, I do really, really wonder about his chances of sliding up the lineup here and being a guy, just with what we know about him, being a guy that one of the Oilers' two skilled forwards really like playing with. Like, does he have a little Pat Maroon in him?
Yeah, that's maybe a good example.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.